Yes, yes, I can. I can hear chatter in the background. Is that about what you got on your end? Hi, who's that? Janine, hi. How the heck are you? Okay, go for it. Oh, no.
And now the lyrics. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in the one strong body, gathered here in the struggle of the body, gathered us near. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Topeka, and I am Vicki George. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. If you're a newcomer, welcome, and thanks for joining us today. If you've been part of this group for a short while or a long while, thanks for sticking with us. This is such a big job for our little group, but we practice on each other. Here we aspire to give each other respect, to listen to each other with open hearts, and to support the good things that each of us tries to do. These are our aspirations, and when we fall short, we just keep trying. As Martin Buber famously declared, we human beings are promise-making, promise-breaking, and promise-renewing animals. So the announcements are on the back of your order of service. Let me see. Some different slides, my darling. Okie dokie. Gathered here in the mystery. There we go. Just want to remind you, everybody turn off your cell phones. Darling, could you turn off my cell phone over there?
Absolutely. You want it off?
Yeah, silent. Okay. And remember, we are being streamed thanks to the magic of Jake. Woo, magic of Jake and David. But that means it's also preserved in electronic form. Please be mindful of this before coming to either of our microphones. You need to say who you are. And please check the back of your printed order of service, the bulletin boards in the gathering space, and our website, uuft.org. One other announcement I have, the second session of the new UU is right after the service. We have a pizza lunch, gluten-free options. Pick up your plate and come down to Foz Chapel. If you missed the first session last week, no problem. Jana Cook and I will catch you up later. Now I invite Don Chronister to the podium to read the child's lighting.
Okay. In a recent post, UU minister Linda Hart says, Henry David Thoreau was the first person to blend graphite with clay to make a smear-free pencil. I thought that was pretty cool, as it aligns with the whole idea of a faith that is changeable. A few weeks later, I was on a hike with a few Unitarian friends in England, and I learned that Joseph Priestley had invented the eraser. It seems to me we have a history of revisions. We light our chalice today with the words of Joseph Priestley. The wisdom of one generation will be folly for the next. Thank you.
And I believe Lisa is going to be zooming in to do the story for all ages. What do you do with an idea? And there she is.
Hi, everyone. The story I'd like to share with you today is called What Do You Do with an Idea? By Kobe Yamada and pictures by Mae Bessem. One day, I had an idea. Where did it come from? Why is it here? I wondered. What do you do with an idea? At first, I didn't think much of it. It seemed kind of strange and fragile. I didn't know what to do with it, so I just walked away from it. I acted like it didn't belong to me. But it followed me. I worried what others would think. What would people say about my idea? I kept it to myself. I hid it away and didn't talk about it. I tried to act as if everything was the same as it was before my idea showed up. There was something magical about my idea. I had to admit I felt better and happier when it was around. It wanted food. It wanted to play. Actually, it wanted a lot of attention. It grew bigger, and we became friends. I showed it to other people, even though I was afraid of what they would say. I was afraid if people saw it, they would laugh at it. I was afraid they'd think it was silly. And many of them did. They said it was no good. They said it was too weird. They said it was a waste of time and that it would never become anything. At first, I believed them. I actually thought about giving up on my idea. I almost listened to them. But then I realized, what did they really know? This is my idea. I thought, no one knows it like I do, and it's okay if it's different and weird and maybe a little crazy. I decided to protect it, to care for it. I fed it good food. I worked with it. I played with it. But most of all, I gave it my attention. And my idea grew and grew, and so did my love for it. I built it a new house where it could look up at the stars, a place where it could be safe to dream. I liked being with my idea. It made me feel more alive, like I could do anything. It encouraged me to think big, and then to think bigger. It shared its secrets with me. It showed me how to walk on my hands because it said it's good to have the ability to see things differently. I couldn't imagine my life without it. Then one day something amazing happened. My idea changed right before my eyes. It spread its wings, took flight, and burst into the sky. I don't know how to describe it, but it went from being here to being everywhere. It wasn't just a part of me anymore. It was now a part of everything. And then I realized what you do with an idea. You change the world. Thanks, UUFT, for nurturing so many ideas in my life. Thanks for being open to thinking big and playfully. And thanks to my storyteller, companion, and helper, Living Schwartz Bowman.
We'll sing the children out now. Little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Thank you. Time for joys and concerns. I haven't been given any, except it was the joy of being able to see Libby and Lisa. Anyone else have any joys and concerns they'd like to come up and, good, here we go.
Well, after a couple of years of living by myself, Eric, my partner, has moved in with me.
Ooh.
And my son, Jack, is now buying Eric's house. So he has just moved into a brand new house all to himself.
Okay.
And so things are happening with the Wagoner household, and it was a joyous day yesterday as we moved everyone around.
Lots of boxes, yay.
Yesterday at the Southern Cal Annual Driver Appreciation Banquet, I was recognized as Driver of the Year.
But come, Dennis, come back here and say who you are.
I'm Dennis Bosley,
Driver of the Year.
Driver of the Year.
I'm Joe Silsby. I'm a treasurer, board member on a couple of other committees. I was asked by the program committee and by Rob specifically to make some clarification about collections. Any collections goes to the general fund of supporting UUFT in general, unless it's a designated one and approved by the board. Then there are some special collections throughout the year, and that would be announced from the pulpit or in the program when that happens. So for most of the time, general collection goes to the general fund for support of keeping the place open and paying bills and all of that. Thank you.
All those boring things, thank you.
Hi, I'm Blair. A few weeks ago, I told you guys about the fact that I got a new job. I just finished up my video training that I was doing for that job, and it's going really, really well. I really enjoy it. The people that I work with are very, very nice. And then me and my family, which is Kara and Adam and Ryan, are moving into a house next month.
Ooh, wow.
So we got a 4-bedroom, 1-bath house that we're going to be able to move into, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Okay,
So.
great, right, yay. And Blair took part last week in our new UU class and will be continuing this week. So, any other joys or concerns? Okay, hearing none, I invite Raymond Powers to the podium for our reading 477, Let Us Forgive.
Forgive us that often we forgive ourselves so easily and others so hardly. Forgive us that we expect perfection from those to whom we show none. Forgive us for repelling people by the way we set a good example. Forgive us the folly of trying to improve a friend. Forbid that we should use our little ideas of goodness as a spear to wound those who are different. Forbid that we should feel superior to others when we are only more shielded. And may we encourage the secret struggle of every person. Vivian Pomeroy, thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. And so we're now going to be taking up the offering, and do I have a couple of volunteers that will, I believe we do. Ooh, looky back there. Baskets are going. And Janine is going to be leading us in Shine on Me. lighthouse, shine on me, shine on me, oh, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. Lift me up, oh, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse shine. Lift me up, lift me up, oh, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up. Hold me close, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse hold me close, hold me close, oh, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse hold me close. Thank you, Janine. Introduction of our speaker today, who will be on Zoom, thanks to the magic of Jake. Reverend Lisa Romantum Schwartz first visited UUFT in 1983, when she finally accepted the invitation of her then boyfriend to come to lunch with him. She had been staying home reading the Capitol Journal while he came to fellowship, and she still wonders how her life might have been different if she had known how to get the Sunday New York Times instead. On her first visit, the program featured 3 UUFT members speaking about their spiritual journeys. After the formal presentation in the old garage, now known as the Emerson, the congregation passed the microphone around and many people added their own journey stories to the mix. There was a lot of diversity of experience, and no one was asked to choose which path was the correct one, nor tried to convince others to follow their way. Lisa thought, wait, a person might start out in one religious place and then take a journey that might lead them to an entirely different direction. She was instantly hooked, kept coming to the fellowship, kept dating that boyfriend, and eventually, here in this fellowship, in this room, Scanlon Hall, she and Jim were married, and he's still her boyfriend. When Jim and Lisa shared in joys and sorrows that they were expecting a baby, the congregation cheered. Their daughter Libby was dedicated here, with Bill Lucero officiating in 1987. Where does a spiritual journey take a person? Back in the early 1880s, few here, least of all Jim Schwartz, would have envisioned Lisa's call to ministry. But her involvement with this free faith awakened a call in her, and in 1890, Lisa started seminary at St. Paul's School of Theology in Kansas City. 1990. You're right. In 1990, Lisa started seminary at St. Paul. She typed it correctly, I didn't. Remember, kids, this was before the internet, so people actually had to go to school. St. Paul was the nearest liberal seminary to Topeka. Lisa did her internship in clinical pastoral education right up the street at the VA hospital and really loved chaplaincy. After graduation in '94, she did a year-long chaplaincy residency at the Topeka State Hospital and then went to Lincoln, Nebraska to serve as their intern for further training in parish ministry. She was ordained here at UUFT in 1996. She had a brief job on the chaplaincy staff at Starr Vale and took a full-time job as a chaplain at the Inpatient Drug and Alcohol Treatment Center, then known as SARP, now part of Vallejo. And when our minister, the Reverend David Grimm, was called to a new position, Lisa joyfully applied to be our settled minister. We called her in 2003, and she served here until she accepted a new call in Winston-Salem, North Carolina in 2012. During Lisa's time in leadership, the UUFT added staff in administration and religious education and built our amazing new addition. In 2019, Lisa began to discern a new direction. You might say a path diverged in her ongoing spiritual journey, and she started intensive training to become an interim minister, a specialist in transitions and congregational change. Lisa served as the interim minister at the UU Fellowship in Athens, Georgia, from 20 to 22, and is currently serving Oak Ridge Unitarian Universalist Church in East Tennessee. Lisa and Jim have a home base in Asheville, North Carolina, where their daughter Libby has lived since 2009. Libby and her husband Ross have a beautiful, almost 3-year-old daughter who acts as a magnet, pulling Lisa and Jim towards full-time residency in Asheville. So after 40 years as a UU, 20 years of ministry, and much spiritual journey, Reverend Lisa Romantum Schwartz is delighted to return virtually to UUFT and wonder with us about the changes Unitarian Universalists are experiencing and shaping today.
Hi, everybody. It is such a delight to be with you at UUFT. This is a place where I was nurtured in so many ways. You witnessed my journey into adulthood, into motherhood, and into ministry. Thank you. I'd like to begin with a reading by my Pacific Northwest colleague, Monica Jacobson Tennyson. She's a spiritual director and a poet as well as a minister. So take a breath and let these questions enter in. What is it that calls you here? That calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you the power to make that change, to ask that question, to take that journey? What is it that says you have done well, that asks you to learn more, that brings you to stillness? Hard times. It is relationship, the beating heart of our faith. Now, I don't know if it's still the case at UUFT. It used to be that when anyone asked the question, what's the most important thing about this fellowship? And the answer always came quickly: community. Well, I've traveled a bit since those days, and it turns out that the most common answer I hear from Unitarian Universalists everywhere when I say, what's the most important thing about your fellowship or church? They say, community. Such a powerful word. And it's kind of like Reverend Monica's word, relationship. I love her claim that this is the beating heart of our faith. And I like her question, what calls you here? Most of us wouldn't answer with religious language. We wouldn't even start with spiritual principles, though we have spiritual principles. There are 7. That's not usually where we start. It makes it tough when you're talking with somebody from a more traditional church and they expect you to summarize Unitarian Universalism in a neat creedal statement, and you start talking about spiritual journeys and diversity of belief. But when we gather together, when we gather as Unitarian Universalists, and we're not called to explain, but rather are called into relationship, our diverse beliefs are grounded in a set of shared values. And make no mistake, our principles are not a creed. UUs and creeds are like 7-Up and caffeine. Never had it, never will. Because a creed is not just a statement of religious belief, it's a pledge of allegiance to a certain faith. I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, the maker of heaven and earth and of all things seen and unseen. And I bet I'm not the only one who can still recite that without looking at the bulletin. For centuries, our ancestors have refused to have a creedal test. We value diversity of belief and the vibrancy it brings to our relationships, our communities. Now, I don't know how many of you once had to say that creed in the church of your origin. One of the profound changes I have seen in now 4 decades of Unitarian Universalism is that a growing number of UUs never had to say a creed because they didn't go to those churches that many of us were dragged into. There's a generation of UUs whose parents said, I'm not going to drag my kid to church. So Unitarian Universalism is their only experience of congregational life. They don't have the old baggage. Many of them were raised Unitarian Universalist. I remember back in 1995 in my internship in Lincoln, Nebraska, I was helping some young adults plan a service, and we looked into the hymnal and ran across number 42, Morning So Fair to See. It's a poetic set of words created by Vincent Silliman, a UU poet. And I took one look at that song and I said, oh man, it's too bad we can't use that one. And the young folks said, why can't we use that one? And I was like, well, duh, here's the tune. La, 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 la. Yeah. Some of you know it. I'm going to ask you to raise your hands if that tune is familiar to you. And I can't see the hands in Scanlon Hall, but I want you to look around and get a sense of how many people there grew up with that song and knew it as Fairest Lord Jesus. And we still get triggered by the tune. So back in Lincoln, Nebraska, I sang that tune to them and they were like, we never sang that song. We like that song. We like Morning So Fair to See, and we want to sing it. Well, okay then. I could say it was a come to Jesus moment for me, but it's kind of the opposite. Anyway, I loved Lori Hart's insight into the Unitarian origins of both pencils and erasers because I experience our faith as flexible, changeable. It was what called me here, called me onward and inward, and made this place my home right away. I didn't know anything about the guiding principles of Unitarian Universalism. And none of you who were there in 1983 offered me a wallet card. Nobody gave me a wallet card or a bookmark. You know why? Unitarian Universalists didn't have the 7 principles in 1983. In those days, Unitarian Universalism did have principles. There were 6 principles, and they were tucked into the UUA bylaws, Article 2. Now, how many of you have ever seen or heard of the 6 principles? Just in case you haven't, here goes. The members of the Unitarian Universalist Association, dedicated to the principles of a free faith, unite in seeking 1, to strengthen one another in a free and disciplined search for truth as the foundation of our religious fellowship. 2, to cherish and spread the universal truths taught by the great prophets and teachers of humanity in every age and tradition, immemorially summarized in the Judeo-Christian heritage as love to God and love to man. 3, to affirm, defend, and promote the supreme worth of every human personality, the dignity of man, and the use of the democratic method in human relationships. 4, to implement our vision of one world by striving for a world community founded on ideals of brotherhood, justice, and peace. 5, to serve the needs of member churches and fellowships, to organize new churches and fellowships, and to extend and strengthen liberal religion. And 6, to encourage cooperation with men of goodwill in every land. Yes, they unapologetically said man and men and brotherhood because it was accepted standard language in that era. Now, as you can imagine, from our earliest days, UUs have attracted feminists, lots of women and a few men. And they said, you know, worse than just that sexist language in there is the lived reality of patriarchy in Unitarian Universalism. Now, our ancestors had been leaders in ordaining women starting in the middle of the 19th century. And by 1920, Universalists had ordained 88 women. Unitarians had ordained 42. So, pop quiz, when Unitarians and Universalists merged in 1961, how many women were in ministry, totaling the Unitarians and the Universalists? 0, zilch, nada, none. Words are important. Sometimes they reveal a pattern or a practice that's hard to recognize and painful to even admit. So UU feminist women and a few men organized and spoke out. And remember, this was hardly the only issue going on in the time. The Vietnam War, race relations, the Cold War, nuclear weapons, many important issues competed for our attention, and UUs reflected the larger culture in so many ways. And we like to think, as the septic tank cleaning truck in Lawrence used to say, that we're in the muddy water, but not of it. That actually the struggles in our cultural milieu are always very active for UUs. Women in Unitarian Universalism had been pushed to the margins of the faith, so they organized and they caucused and they asked us to draw the circle wider. They came up with a Women in Religion resolution, which passed General Assembly in 1977. And after that, a commission was formed to study Article 2 of the bylaws, where the 6 principles were. The commission was charged to think about the language, to really think about it and what it implied, and to generate broad discussions about what our core values were. They were asked to get feedback along the way, let new ideas emerge. So they got out their sharp pencils and their erasers, and they rewrote, they revised, they reformulated, and in 1984, they presented 7 principles to delegates at General Assembly. And I don't know, maybe you imagine hugely divisive floor debates, but the UU world says the process was amazingly amicable, with maximum participation and dialogue and total transparency. Now, did we here at UUFT really even know what was going on in 83 and 84? I don't know about you. I was clueless. But as soon as those 7 principles were adopted, they started to appear on wallet cards and bookmarks, and kids started coloring them in as a rainbow. So what do you do with a faith that staunchly, fiercely resists a creed, but all of a sudden you got this list of values and it's written into your bylaws? Well, you write a clause into the bylaws that mandates every few years you have to go back to the list and review it and revise it based on current cultural realities and your evolving understanding. That's our fail-safe device. It's a feature, not a bug. It's built in to counter problems we haven't even thought of yet. We built in a commitment to use both the pointy end and the eraser because we have just enough humility to admit that no generation can get it right for all time. So we have a mandate to look at our values as stated in Article 2 at regular intervals. I don't remember the interval, it might be 15 years. And you know, those current principles and the list of sources that inspire us was last updated in 1985. Oops. I do not understand what happened. I do remember that there have been some proposed revisions. I remember a debate on the floor of General Assembly where people passionately and sometimes tearfully argued that the 7 principles form the foundation of their faith and they can never be changed. And I remember thinking, whoa, that sounds like a creed. You know, we are not the only American religious group that says religion should stay open to new ideas and revelation. United Methodists have 4 foundational values, and one of them is reason. They say, and I quote, "We are called to love God with our minds as well as with our hearts." This means becoming aware of different points of view and using our own critical thinking. Our cousins, the United Church of Christ, came out a few years ago with a great slogan. It might have been kind of a rebranding process. And they hung banners on their churches that said, "God is still speaking." Probably not a banner that's going to go up on a UU fellowship, but we share that idea that revelation is continuously unfolding, and we are open to hearing new voices, new ideas, new perspectives. So yeah, UU's wrote revision into our bylaws, and for whatever reason it took from the time when my hair was naturally chestnut brown to now when it is completely white, just to offer one example, a measure like a yardstick about the passage of time, took us a long time to put together a study commission and look at good old Article 2. You may have heard of the current Article 2 Study Commission. Catchy name. It's a group of UUs from around the country, including a friend of mine, Rob Spurko. He's a member of a small lay-led fellowship in East Tennessee. And there are religious educators and young adults, one of whom was just graduating from high school when she started. There are LGBTQ activists and a mix of races and perspectives. And the commission was charged with really looking at Article 2 and to, I quote, propose any revisions that will enable our UUA, our member congregations, and our covenanted communities to be a relevant and powerful force for spiritual and moral growth, healing, and justice. A relevant and powerful force. That was their charge, their mandate. And then they went all think outside the box on us and said a numbered list of principles no longer really seems to capture our living tradition. Revelation is continuous. Reasoning humans grow in knowledge and awareness, and our religious ideas and the way we state our core principles should reflect that changing, evolving ethos. I love the part of that "What do you do with an idea" book where the kid is so enamored of his idea that he builds it a house, which is a very human impulse. Let's protect this thing, my idea that serves me so well. And despite his best intentions, the idea takes on a life of its own and grows beyond his wildest dreams, and only then does it fulfill its purpose to change the world, to be a relevant and powerful force for spiritual, moral growth, healing, and justice. That's the hope for our shared idea, our ideal of a diverse, vibrant faith. Our precious idea. So crazy, so weird to think that everyone can believe what is in accordance with their own conscience and experience. Yeah, that idea is like our little light. I'm gonna let it shine, even as its brightness passes out of my sphere and grows beyond my control. You know, when the delegates to General Assembly come together this summer to look at this revision, if you haven't seen it, you should Google it. We will not vote on whether or not to adopt this new Article 2. This is too important. There's too much at stake. So this June, the delegates to General Assembly will simply vote on whether or not we want to talk about this major revision. If we vote yes this summer, we'll just continue to revise the current draft and make changes that better express who we are. Our core values, however we phrase them in a particular era, are practical applications of a faith meant to help us navigate through a world that is at once glorious and imperfect, as we are. Glorious, each with inherent worth and dignity, and each and every one imperfect. The understandings that we had in 1961 or 1985 have not been the best navigational guides, partly because the landscape around us has changed, partly because our understanding of the landscape has changed. And that crazy, weird idea we share of a faith where we're free to search for truth and meaning, that is an idea I hope spreads its wings and takes flight beyond the confines of our little house, even the one with the open roof. The new draft says openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. I hope this idea we call Unitarian Universalism grows and changes so it can continue to change the world. I believe that's our holy work, to affirm this world is worth changing. This world is worth saving. Yeah, I really believe this world is worth saving with our crazy ideas, and you knew Gaga would show you baby pictures. This world is worth cherishing. It's worth believing our ideas can make a difference. It's worth figuring out how to phrase our ideas in the language of a new generation so that these changes we dream of can really happen. I'll say it again, it's our holy work to let our ideas take flight and grow beyond us, even to grow out of our control. What is it that calls you here, that calls you inward and onward and homeward? Homeward says you've done well and asks you to learn more. It's this relationship, the beating heart of our faith. May it be so.
revelation is ongoing. So it's changeable. We are a changeable faith. Anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Good. We've got Nancy coming up.
Good morning, Nancy Heitzig here. This was very moving for me, hearing her this morning. When she spoke about, the journey in going inward into the heart, and I don't remember exact words. I just know that it was, for me, it's always been a journey. I've always searched and looked and, under rocks, up in trees, wherever. And lately I've been kind of lost in a way that I've been having a difficult time with, being somewhat depressed, and it's kind of like I've lost my connection. I've always had some connection. I've always been grounded and like the earth, and it's just, I haven't been connected, but she's helped me this morning to see where my connection might have been short-circuited. And it's really made an impression on me, and I feel like I have made a new connection or reconnected with what she talked about, and I thank her very much.
Thank you, Nancy. And many of you saw Lisa in her earlier rendition when she was just a young person that came here 40 years ago. What a change, huh? Not just the color of her hair. Okay. So Janine will now lead us in the final song, Love Will Guide Us, and the lyrics will be up there. If you want to see what the melody is, it's in the gray hymnal that's out. It's 131.
I also wanted to, there was an announcement that was laid over here and didn't get put up on... No? You did it? Oh, it's not to be, okay.
So now you're going to be leading us?
Now I'm going to lead you. We all know this. Would you stand, please? Not everyone may know this, but you'll get it quickly. So you have it in a book, 131. And the piano disc is not working, so we're going to sing this a cappella, folks. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from green to giving. Love will guide us through the dark night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Well, let's have coffee. Oh, wait a minute. She's got something.
Extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Blessed be coffee time. And new UU, we've got some lunch and a gathering.
Mike.
That's Mike Wilson, Mike and Jabel, Carolyn Peck over there.
Can you hear this? No.
I can hear
you
it,
me?
but I can't see you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was Mike Wilson, Carolyn Peck, Jabel,